is going. All right, we're live. Just 1 second, Mandisa, because I want to. All right, do you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear
Okay,
you.
okay, definitely. I want to just 1 second, family. All right, here we go. Yeah, we're live, and we have Mandisa Lateefah Thomas in the building. Thank you for accepting my invitation to my smaller platform as I
Oh, no problem. Thank you for having me.
no doubt.
I appreciate it.
And I like I said, this is my second interview. I'm trying to give a series of interviews out to the people that inspire me, whether it's here locally or just in the world. Uh, yeah, no, I first saw you. Um, I ran into one of your videos on when you were doing that show, AXP, the Atheist
Yes.
Experience with
Uh-huh.
Matt Dillahunty,
Uh-huh.
and
Whose
that's
birthday is today? Happy birthday, Matt.
okay. There you go. And yeah, and that was the first time I ran into you because I was listening to some of his videos and things like that, and I was like, who's this black girl, coming on? And I was like, I was like, ah. uh, and then when I heard you speak and that you had a Black non-believers nonprofit organization, I had no clue about that, and I was very interested in hearing about that. And then I googled you and listened to some of your videos or whatnot. Um, I had only like 3 days to do some research on you because I didn't, like I told you before, it was like a shot in the dark. I was just asking. I didn't think you was probably gonna get back with me, if ever, or in a month or two. I thought I was gonna have like a week or 2 weeks to prepare. But anyhow, it is what it is. I'm happy. I ain't complaining. But I
Woo.
want to talk about Black atheism. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Well, first and foremost, if everybody don't know this lady that I'm talking to, I consider her as the face of Black atheism in a way, or up and coming, or one of the faces. Most definitely, I've some of the awards that she's been given. I've read off from her. The Unitarian Universalist Humanist Association Person of the Year Award in
Yes,
2018.
that's a tongue twister. Sorry.
Secular Student Alliance's Backbone Award 2019. I like how they had that Backbone Award. Uh, Freedom from Religion Foundation Free Thought Heroine in 2019. And a big award in 2020, a co-recipient of the Harvard Humanist of the Year Award. And I'm sure you got plenty others that we haven't spoken about. And I know you had your 10-year anniversary recently, correct? And was that in New Orleans as well?
It was in
Okay.
New Orleans. It was a hybrid event. We had a smaller gathering in New Orleans, and then everyone
Okay.
else watched it live. They streamed it.
Okay. How was that turnout?
It was actually
Uh,
good considering the pandemic. COVID has just it has affected everything
right.
worldwide. So
Right. Right.
we had about a good 30 people in attendance, and it was, we observed the safety and social distancing guidelines,
Right.
and no one caught COVID. So we
Right.
actually had a panel in which we discussed, COVID, its effects, and how it impacts community service, secular community service.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I highly recommend that if you miss the 10th anniversary, to check out the videos on our YouTube channel if you can.
Definitely. Black non-believers, they have a YouTube channel as well, and a website, and a whole bunch of things. You also are a board. Are you still on the board of American Humanist
Yes, and
Association?
American Atheist. Yes, the American
Ma-
Humanist Association and
Okay,
American
so
Atheist.
you mainstream.
I
You
guess,
you you didn't you didn't you didn't
just
broke mainstream. You see what I'm saying? That's
uh,
that's another. That's kind of like a segue into the conversation that I really want to have about the Black conscious community. Have
uh-huh.
anybody from the Black conscious community ever reached out to you?
So that's a very interesting
Because every time I hear
conversation.
you talk about the Black conscious community, you kind of you say a little bit. You mentioned RPG one time. You mentioned that you kind of grew up in that kind of
Yes.
non-secular and things like that. But I haven't yet came across you having an interview. Actually, when I saw you just post recently about you had an interview on some hip hop radio station or something like that. I didn't have a chance to listen to it or whatnot, but
Hmm.
besides that one right there, I haven't really. I was looking for black media in you, into
Yeah.
engagement or whatnot, and I haven't ran across that personally. But on YouTube, I've heard you on the line, all the the
Hmm.
Austin Atheist Network group.
Hmm.
You're over there heavy repping Texas and Georgia, so
Yeah.
much so that I didn't even know you was from New York City,
Hmm.
until I got into it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why because in New York, the conscious community is heavy, as you know, and you if you as you said, and also, but I'm gonna go ahead and let you talk because I got some questions about that the conscious community if they reached out to
Okay.
you.
Well, yes. So this is very interesting. Like you said, I was born in New York City, raised in the conscious community,
Yeah.
and which gave me a sort of a heads up on issues that affect the Black community, and a good inside look, especially into how religion affects our community.
Most
But what I've also experienced within the Black conscious demographic or sect is that there are definitely some heavy remnants of patriarchy and white supremacy
yeah.
and being anti-LGBTQ,
Yeah.
very misogynistic. And so these are, I will say that the Black conscious elders that raised me didn't raise me to be subservient to anyone.
Right.
So, and early on, it's interesting that you mentioned the Black conscious community and
Mm,
my dealings with them because early on, as BM was getting started in Atlanta, there were some former members who were heavy on, being, they were pretty homophobic. They were spewing some very pseudo scientific nonsense about the LGBTQ community.
yeah.
And we were like, no, this is not where it's at. This is
Right.
not what we stand for. And so they created their own they created their own series that was distributed on YouTube. I'm not sure if it's still active. If you Google black, if you type in Black Atheists of Atlanta, I mean they haven't
Mm,
done videos in years.
right.
So this was early on when we were getting started, and so early on there were other Black atheists who were asking us to speak up about this,
Right.
and what was going on, and so I did, and they came for me. They
Mm,
they
yeah.
came for
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
on their platform. The very one of the common things is that if you disagree with them in any way, then you're not Black.
Right.
It's
Right.
all this other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me.
You've been saying that like when you
Mhm.
about how black people in particular they kind of take when a black person professes or openly professes that they're an atheist, that they get backlash, and sometimes it's looked as if you're not, you're not being black. It's kind of like taking away your black card. That's not what kind of like that's not what we do here because of
Mhm.
the as you said numerous times that 79 or 80% or more are
Uh-huh. Very
considered
religious.
religious
Mhm.
and things like that. Um, well, I've heard of there's a group, in the Black conscious community. I have a yeah, I have those Egyptomaniacs I call them.
Yes.
I have a thing with those, and that can be a whole nother subject. But I
Yeah,
heard
we
of
yeah, we jokingly call them the hoteps.
the hoteps. You know what I mean?
Right.
Definitely. There's a group out there called the you heard of Almond Ra Squad out there in Atlanta
Yes, yes, I
with
have.
Ankh.
Yep, yeah.
Have you had have you had run-ins with them?
They were a part of the Black Atheists of Atlanta that I had
Got you.
run-ins with, and
Got you. That
years ago did Ankh tried to approach me at an event,
mm,
and I basically told him to go screw himself.
got you.
Because when you come at me publicly like that, and
Mm,
being from New York, we don't
mm.
take that. We don't
I feel
take
you.
that
I,
well.
I feel
So,
you. I feel you.
it's like,
To
I
to
decide,
the to the wider audience that's listening in that may not
I
know,
mean,
especially out here in Norway, there's a
mhm,
there's a conscious group out there in Atlanta, called the Almond Ra Squad.
you know,
And Son Netter, I know everybody knows Son Netter. on
I've
there
heard
out of
of
New
him.
York.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
and
heard
they
of
kind
him,
of and they kind
and
of blew and
polite and all of
polite and
them.
all the
Yes,
other
yeah.
allegedly alleged scammers or duck.
Right. Oh gosh, yeah.
But
Yeah.
speaking of that, I've have you really spoken? I know you do a lot of pro humanistic and pro black things and things
Mhm.
like that,
Yep.
but uh, there was a couple, and I listened to a lot of your videos the last couple of days, and there was a couple of things that I kind of wanted to talk about, I guess later as we get into it. Yeah, I'll save that for later. But
Okay.
your start of um, you moved to Atlanta in '97,
Correct. Yes.
and you came across. You said you've about the Jones tragedy. That was also in Guyana, as we
Oh,
spoke on.
yes, yes,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. That
That
was
had a
always a point of reference when it
yeah.
comes to religion being dangerous
Correct.
and definitely
Correct.
following cult leaders. Yes,
Right. Like
absolutely.
Jonestown, if everybody doesn't know about the Jim Jones cult leader from this group, fanatic group out of San Francisco that
The People's Temple.
right, that made it out there to a small remote town in Guyana, and they all a massacre,
Yeah. Mhm.
suicide massacre that he told, was it cyanide or something like that? And it
It
was like
was
909 people that died.
it was almost 1,000, close to 1,000 people, a lot of children, a lot of black
Over
folks. I
300, I
mean,
heard. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yes,
for sure.
and one of my cohorts in the Black Atheist, in the Black Atheist movement here,
Mm,
Sakivu Hutchinson has a novel about the Jonestown tragedy.
okay.
So yes, it is very much a point of reference for us, and
Right.
when we speak to the horrors that belief and people following religion, that's certainly a major reference for us.
Right, right. Now you always say that you hate religion, and and I love that you apologetically. I'm just
hmm
messing everything up.
Yeah,
Unapologetically
I don't
black
hate
atheist.
all religious people, but I can't, I really do. I hate religion.
No,
I
I
really
know, I
just
hear you,
can't. I
and I know
really,
that you
really
talk
do.
mainly about
hmm
the doctrine
Yes.
and not so much the people and
hmm
things like that. And I like sometimes when you're on that show with Matt Dillahunty, and there's a person that calls in, and I see your face
Oh yeah.
when they ask about, well,
Yeah, my
if
facial expression, I don't
slavery is,
hide. I don't.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. When they ask that question about if slavery, if we were forced to accept Christianity, then why so many of us follow Christianity
Yeah.
and all these things like that? And that's when you chime in on, and I love to listen to you. Oh, could you talk just a little bit on that, so there's some of the wider audience that has no clue of what I'm talking about? Because there's some out there that I believe that think that, to this very day. There's some,
Right.
yeah, I have some white followers on here and some people part of these groups that are going to be chiming in and listening to this interview
Sure.
about atheism, and why should we distinguish black
Right.
atheism and atheism as a whole within itself.
Right. And so we
Whatnot.
can
I
look at.
titled the video "Black Atheism," but Mandisa's mainstream. Don't let her fool
Oh
you.
gosh.
Don't let her fool you. She tapped into that mainstream. But we're gonna talk about that because I'm gonna play devil's advocate, and I'm gonna tell you some some of the talks what I've heard on why some people believe. I have to play devil's advocate with you. I can't come at you like everybody else did. But go
It's too
ahead.
early in the morning over here for that. No, I'm just kidding. But but I will say for those who are listening, and this may be a first time subject for you, is that, and we can look at this on a global scale because we find that this is similar in other countries when we talk about the continent.
Yep.
The continent of Africa and wherever Black folks are worldwide,
Yep.
that religion and the Judeo-Christians, the Judeo-Christian religions in particular, and why they dominate our communities. And
Yep.
so when we talk about colonialization, the transatlantic slave trade, and what that meant as far as imposing religion, and Christianity in particular, that was sanctioned by the Catholic Church. The transatlantic slave trade was
Right.
sanctioned by the Catholic Church.
Most definitely.
And so, as a means to keep the enslaved, the enslaved captives, enslaved, if you will, there were ways of seasoning through the laws over here, and also just really incorporating religion and the church into into America, if you
Right.
will.
Right.
Even
Right.
though we're supposedly founded on church state separation, this country was supposed to have freedom of religion. That certainly wasn't the case for the enslaved Africans and their descendants. And so, as time went on, our ancestors were forced to accept this doctrine.
Right. Right.
But once the legal period of slavery ended, the church became a focal point for those who,
Like
for those
abolitionists or
Christians, yeah,
whatnot.
the
Yeah.
abolitionists, the anti-slavery folks,
Hmm.
Quakers and others, for example.
Right.
They used their religious beliefs to actually help folks and to help build better and build communities. There are a
Right.
lot of
Right.
historically black colleges and universities that were founded
Right.
by churches, and so what that means is it just became a staple for a community. The African Methodist Episcopal Church was founded as a
Definitely.
way for, for black folks to sort of keep that, identity,
Hmm.
because there were a lot of white people who did not want black folks in their churches.
Right. Right.
So it became very much a community outlet. It
Right.
became a strong sense of identity, especially during the time of racial segregation, racial terror. Let's
Right.
just
Jim
call it what it is.
Crow,
Yes,
KKK, and the likes.
all of that. And
Right.
so,
And
but and there was a documentary that was released on PBS over here called The Black Church.
okay.
Um, and it goes into the history of it and
Hmm.
how, there are a lot of, a lot of musicians, a lot of people who were raised in the church. And so it was a very strong basis for a lot of
Okay.
black folks. And so understanding what that is, even the doctrine aside, what that means to people. But even with the doctrine,
Right.
it's
Right. Right.
still,
No doubt
it
about
was,
that.
yeah. So it's
Like you said,
very
misogynistic,
right. It's very interwoven. It's
homophobic,
very
and all
right,
kinds of
and it
racist and all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
yes, and it's very institutional. So it's something that's hard to just
Right.
dismantle right away.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
And it's kind of, well, like you said, at the same time, it's a crippling agent that you like to use all the time for the black community,
Correct.
and how Christianity hijacked the image of the black community.
Yes.
That I remember you saying that.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, but
Yeah.
is the what was I gonna say? Well, how's the number as far as the black atheism, has it risen as far as in 2021, since you've yeah, been
Well,
in? I
yes,
mean, how much
there are
members?
now more openly identified Black atheists and and other similarly identified
Right,
other similar
right,
identities, agnostic, humanist,
right.
secular,
So
etc.
it's been picking up a lot
So
of steam,
it
definitely.
has. It
Right.
has. And while the numbers, so Pew Research just released a new study
Right.
about religion in the
You
Black
rely on that Pew
community.
Research. I tell you that. I hear
We
you
we do,
a
yeah. I
lot
mean,
on.
they're
I hear
they're
you a lot
big
on that.
over here. Yeah.
Yeah, for
There was
sure.
also another Gallup poll which showed that church attendance has dwindled.
Read
I
about
think
it
within,
today.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, of course, just because church attendance dwindles doesn't mean that people stop believing. And I think that
Right,
that's the important thing to distinguish, that the numbers are still on par as far as like 79% of the black community being religious.
right,
There are more people who are doing away with their traditional beliefs, definitely more young people, more millennials and such. So, I mean, we still have a ways to go as far as um, black folks who fully identify as atheists in particular. There's still a huge stigma about
Mm.
that within the Black community. But as an organization, we have increased our presence. And you mentioned Black media and Black outlets. We
Yeah.
actually have connected. I'm not sure if you saw, but I was recently a panel on the National Museum for African American Cultures program, God
Okay.
Talk.
Okay.
They
Okay.
do a series, but I was on the
Uh,
one about digital Black faith, and so
okay.
we connected with that entity, and
Right.
so
Right.
yeah, it should be more well known than it is, but
Yeah.
we're getting
You're
there.
making some space, definitely.
Yeah.
You current issues. Have you? What do you think about that? The little Nas X thing. This is just a
Oh,
sidebar here.
I support him wholeheartedly. I
The
think it's
Satan
very,
shoes or
very
whatnot.
interesting. I think it's very interesting how people are getting up in arms as if he's the only one to have ever been provocative, for
Right.
one.
Right. Right.
And I saw the video. I was like, wow, first of all, it's very artistically creative.
Right.
And
Right.
me being
I
a
never seen
creative
the video, but
myself,
I just heard
it's
about the
pretty
shoe.
dope. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's dope.
Right. Right.
I really think that, and I like, those artists who push the
Push the.
envelope.
Right.
And
Right.
so, yeah, I just think it's very funny that, there are some people getting upset with it. I mean, most of the people I saw are supporting it. I'm glad that he's able to actually get more support than other hip hop artists would have been able to back in the day. Because,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we look at what he's doing now, we look at artists like Sylvester from the 70s, and even Prince, for example, who wasn't gay, but, he certainly
They.
was. He was,
Yeah. Right.
there was certainly
Right.
rumblings around that, right? So there's
Absolutely.
always been black
Paul
artists.
Mooney.
Yes, yeah, there's
There's so many. The list
and
goes
even if
on.
they were, who
Right.
cares,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
Who cares if they're
Right.
gay?
Right.
But black expression has always been diverse and creative, and that's one of the things that I like to remind people of.
But you always,
That
you have this subject with of toxic masculinity and
oh,
buck breaking,
absolutely.
like Tariq
Mhm.
Nasheed is about to put out some. That's
Mhm.
another one, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, or Umar Johnson and
Yeah, 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 that guy
where's
too.
that school at, man? But anyway, yeah, yeah.
Right.
No,
Yeah,
I
unfortunately, we still have a long way to go as far as needing and wanting saviors. Because my
right,
thing is, look, to build a community, I'm not trying to save you. That
right,
it's up to you to save yourself. We can work together
right,
as a community to help each other. But
right,
I'm not trying to save you,
right,
because I'm not trying to create a codependency on me.
right.
I would rather us work together. But that just also goes to show again the responsibility that women have bore in these movements. We've
Hmm.
always
Hmm.
been the backbone, we've been the foundation, but it's usually the men who get the credit. It's usually
Right,
the men
right.
who
Get
are
it.
the ones who are, at the forefront. They're talking all the stuff, but it's the women and others doing the
Hollership.
work.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Mhm.
One of the talks that I enjoyed, one of your older talks. Well, I don't know if it was a couple years ago or a few years ago when you with the American Humanist Association
Uh-huh.
title "We all ain't gonna make it" or
Oh,
some
everyone ain't
was
gonna
it
make it.
yeah
Yes,
or
it was
something like that.
American Atheists. I also did I did
And
that talk for the
I
American
that
Atheists, but yeah,
really
everyone ain't gonna make it. Mhm.
yeah, and you really addressed the in the mainstream kind of setting, the
Mhm.
secularism and the
Oh,
humanists
yeah.
and the
I
the
don't pull
atheists.
punches,
There
even
you go.
on
I
your
I really was
yeah.
like, man, this girl's is something serious right here. But
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I don't play.
Could
When
you
it
talk a
comes
little bit about the and yeah, some like the room you said that they try to book you in and with a roommate or what you said you mentioned something like that when
Oh yeah, there
I
was an
can't remember
incident. It was
exactly.
an incident where there was a group who was here in Atlanta for a certain event.
Right,
They were here for Dragon Con, which is
right,
huge here, and
right.
so they were
I mean, I
trying
didn't want to
to
emphasize on that
gather.
one incident, but I'm just saying like several
Right.
instances that you're saying that it seemed like it wasn't fair or whatnot, or there's you were pointing out that there is racism
Mhm.
and you know inequality
Mhm.
within the mainstream
Oh, in the
space
movement,
of atheism.
absolutely.
Most definitely, just because you don't have religion in your life doesn't mean that the work is done and racism is you know
Right. So I have I think a good reputation for, working well with folks and putting things together, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But what was
Right.
happening in that particular instance is that there were, a group of folks who wanted to host an event. They wanted to do it during my birthday party.
Yep.
And they also wanted Black Nonbelievers to co-sponsor it, and it was just a panel of
Without even your consultation.
dues. Right? Yeah, they wanted us to do it, and then it's like, well, also help pay for it, and I'm like, and that we could also recoup, some proceeds from it. And I said, no, no, that's not. First of all, that isn't my party is not an atheist event. I had family there. I had
Hmm.
coworkers there.
Hmm.
I had of course, some of my BN folks there. But I'm like, that isn't what this was for. I said, I wouldn't mind helping y'all find another space, but y'all are
Right.
not going to use my
Right.
space for that. And
And
so,
you talked a lot about self-worth and things like that too.
hmm
And
yes.
not just
hmm
doing things for free per se, and yeah,
Right. And a lot of our a lot of our organizations do depend on like volunteers who get involved. And so, and our organization is no different. But
yeah.
you don't discount the work that people do. And if I am as important and as valuable as you
Right.
say I am, then yes, you need to compensate me for my work.
Right. Right.
That's very important.
Right. I see the freedom of what are they called? The freedom.
Freedom from Religion Foundation.
Yeah, I see that
Hmm
they embraced you a lot because I see you
Oh
on there.
yeah, we work together a lot. Yes,
Definitely, I see
absolutely.
that's one of your close ones because I seen you on their platform
Yes.
a bunch of times.
hmm
Um,
Yep.
and that's the point that you said about working with other organizations. I think that is one reason why
hmm
Black atheists in Atlanta, certain
hmm
conscious community, some groups aren't getting any more traction than they already have gotten because they can't get along, and from what I see personally, can't get along and work with others and allow
Yeah.
them to kind of help them, or there's
Well, their thing is they want
the
to
white the white
argue.
the white
Right.
man's, you know what I mean, at the
Yeah.
same time it's contradictory because the information that they're getting, they're spewing
hmm
out, is from a white guy, you know
Yeah.
I think
The
it's silly. I
irony.
mean, I've seen this. I've seen it. I mean, I've seen the craziest, the craziest things. I mean, even like I said, the group that we were just talking about earlier. I mean, just speaking of, he just a day ago, Onk just interviewed somebody himself for the first time. I think he's looking around him and seeing people starting to do things online, and it just seemed like he just now kind of started his own platform
Yeah,
or
that's been
whatnot.
a very interesting
Yeah.
thing to just see from the sidelines.
Right. And then at the same time, they're talking about real scholarship and all these things, and it's hilarious. You got brothers out there writing booklets or pamphlets and thinking that they're scholars and teaching about research methodology and all that, but haven't put out any public work at all. It's nuts.
You
But
know, yeah,
yeah.
the thing for me about that is, hey, if that's your lane, if that's what you think is going to, put you out there,
Right.
then, work on it. I mean, that's
Right.
the thing that we all need to do, right? Hey, if
Right.
that's what you're going to do, but you keep that over there.
Right. Right.
I mean, they certainly have criticized me. They've criticized Black nonbelievers as, being the, like, I guess, like the white people's folks, right? They
Right.
they
Right.
think that. But my
But
thing is, you can be pro-black without being
right. Right.
anti-white.
Right.
That's
I
that's
mean, even Matt Dillahunty said it the other day, or not. I don't know if it was the other day, 'cause I was listening to your video the other day, but he
Mhm.
how he mentioned when you co-hosted with him, pro, what do you say, pro, don't be anti black. I forgot what he said, how he said it, but if it's pro community, or
Mhm.
whatnot, then you don't have to. You still can. There's a couple of pastors out there that are doing good work.
Yeah.
Um, um, man, I'm all over the place. But no. So you have what are the things you got in the works that are? coming up
Well, our
besides
one
that?
of
You have the
our
Women of Color, right? Beyond
Women of
Belief.
Color Beyond
Okay.
Belief conference, yes, that's coming up on in September. We
Right.
actually have a cruise coming up as well, a cruise convention, BNC Con.
Okay.
We're actually working on doing a show for our channel as well.
Okay.
So we're that's in development.
American
Um,
Atheist 2021 National Convention,
That's
virtual
this
convention.
weekend. That's
You
this
going
weekend.
you gonna be
I'll
a
be
speaker?
I'll be speaking, and
Okay.
we have a virtual booth as well. So
All right. All right.
I have a
Where's
talk
that
with.
being held at? If you
It's
oh virtual booth.
virtual.
My bad.
Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's virtual, man. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I also have I also am a facilitator with Recovering from Religion, and I'll be doing one of their
Yeah.
talks this
That's right.
coming
I forgot
Monday.
to mention that.
And so, yeah, so there's a lot, there's a lot. I actually will be speaking with the North Orlando Oasis group on
Okay.
Sunday as well. So, I mean,
You've
anyone,
been doing it. You've been doing this full time since would you
2018. Yep,
2018?
I
Okay. The
resigned from my full
CDC.
time. Yeah,
The
I was at the
CDC.
yeah, I was a
All right.
contractor for the CDC. Yep.
Okay.
And yep, I took that leap to take on this new headache. I'm just, I'm just kind of
Right.
kidding, but
Well, you was
just
used to hearing about all these diseases and infectious things working for them or
right.
whatever. So this thing, this corona was nothing for you when you heard about that. You was like, man.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I've seen I've experienced the response to the outbreaks and
Uh-huh.
how they've had to handle that, and so it was an advantage to have worked for that agency to know how to respond to it. So, yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And then with us being, atheists and humanists and encouraging people to follow the science and the evidence
Definitely.
already,
Definitely.
that definitely played a huge part in working around this pandemic here.
Right. Now I know you well you had mentioned about how they in the Christian church or whatnot they promote well I know you talk mainly about Christianity or whatever but Islam they Islam and other religions too or I believe in the
Oh,
same category,
absolutely.
you know what I mean? Definitely. Yeah, I remember you had mentioned about talked about homophobia and misogyny and things like that. At the same time, you have mentioned that a lot of churches are filled with women.
Uh-huh.
Devil's advocate.
Mhm.
Some people hearing it from the conscious community may say, well, at one mouth she's saying that it's so homophobic and misogynistic, but then they got so many women, as you said, in that church space. And um, some may say that, especially in the black church in the context of America, you see a lot of, like you said, you have characters like Prince. I mean, we had
Mhm.
homosexual or
Right.
questionable characters in the black churches. You see a lot choir directors.
Mhm.
A lot, you get what I'm saying. There's a lot of
Right.
so
I see where you're going, and
so
it's funny to
you get
me
what I'm
because
saying.
they're trying to
So
make it seem like it's a woman. They're putting that on women as if it's a woman's fault that a man turns out to be gay, and
okay, so
and
that's
as
how you feel when they
right. And
okay.
so the thing is that if you read anything about homosexuality, you realize that it's
No, and people, this is not what
right.
I'm saying. I'm
Right.
being
That's
devil's
what
advocate.
they're trying
I'm
to
listening,
say,
so don't
right?
cancel me.
So because
Not at all.
certainly
I got some in my
they're
family and friends that subscribe to me, so I'm not saying it, but I have to be devil's advocate, and I have to kind of try to, yeah,
right. No, if you
because
study
because I remember you talking, and I remember I heard the talking. You're saying that because right at second, right when you mentioned that, but so much homophobia, misogyny, and I agree with the doctrine and all that. But when you talk about specifically, now I'm going with you. We're talking about specifically the black church.
uh-huh.
I would be lying to you to say that when I grew up in the black church, and so
Uh-huh.
you know, I would be lying to you to say if there was no questionable or people that were eventually
I
came out
mean,
openly
yeah.
gay, and in a higher percentage
Mhm.
that I noticed of
Right.
black people in the black church that
Right. And it's interesting that when going back to Lil Nas X and how the church
mhm,
preaches against being
right,
who you are,
Right.
basically.
Right.
They teach you all these, these very,
It preaches
hellfire
it
things. Yeah.
preaches that, but yet at the same time, you see a
Right.
lot of
But
you
you see
notice a
people, what
lot
they're
of.
doing is they're denying it. The
Hmm.
church is
Hmm.
rife with people saying one thing and doing something else.
Yeah.
And it creates
Like you
just
mentioned
this.
Eddie Long and
Yes.
other
Uh-huh.
pastors and things like that. And
Hmm.
I mean, not only the black church. I mean, you got
Right,
Catholic
but it's a
priests and all
web
kinds
of
of. But
confusion, and it creates, it's like a
it's
psychosis.
there. You go. Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
It's a psychosis, and the fact that people remain trapped in there, not being able to accept themselves fully for who they are because they still feel like there's something wrong with them, but still feeling like they need this belief, they need this God, and they need this space.
Right, right.
So, I mean, I can respect people who sort of make it their own, but again, the doctrine itself still preaches against you. And
Yeah,
so, yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
just
yeah,
such
yeah,
irony in
yeah,
that.
yeah. I
And
agree.
kudos to those who have broken away from it.
Definitely, I have, I have, I have.
Yes.
It's like I said, it's been rough, and even my family members, they're gonna see on Facebook when I post this because there's a lot of them that are diehard Christians. My mom passed away as Christian in church.
Oh
So
boy.
yeah, so it can yeah. So but I was gonna say damn, what was one question I had it right on tip of my tongue. Anyway, I see that you're following David. Was it David Fitzgerald,
Oh
a
yeah, David
Facebook friend?
Fitzgerald is a
Yeah,
friend
yeah,
of mine. Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Have you did anything with him or
We've
no?
been on the same. David is actually, he's pretty cool. I like him. We've
Okay,
spoken at the same events. We've spoken
okay,
at more than one event together.
okay.
He's a
Well, the
fantastic
conscious
speaker.
community, they interviewed him. That was the first kind of
Really, David
non. Yeah, they
Fitzgerald?
sure did.
Interesting.
They have like a
Yeah.
yeah the little affiliate from Amon Ra Squad. They got a little group called the Dagger Squad,
That's
and he,
funny.
he from New York, and the guy name is Garfield. And
Okay.
actually, to be honest with you, there there's a I call him kind of like a diamond in the rough. There's a few we talked about polite. If he would have you can see potential in the I mean not now. I know about him and all
Mhm.
these things, but I'm just saying like you can see the potential if he would have used his
Powers for
brain,
good.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Well,
powers for good.
but you know,
Because I
it's
mean he was like because you like hip hop. I called him
mhm.
the master P of book writing because he
Mhm.
wrote he supposedly wrote over 100 something books or whatever, little booklets or whatever.
Interesting.
None of them you can he has sources to back
Back it up.
anything that he
Yeah.
says.
Mhm.
You have a lot of brothers like that out there. But
Yeah.
no, I had seen that somebody from the Dagger Squad, that's an affiliate of Armin Ross Squad, had actually interviewed David Fitzgerald. So
Yeah.
he was the one of the first kind of mainstream. No, him and one other guy, and I forget Richard. His name
Richard
is
Carrier.
Richard Carrier.
Mhm.
They met
Well,
him and Richard Carrier. They
Well,
got
the
him
one thing I will say about both David Fitzgerald and Richard Carrier is that they both delve into like the history of Christianity,
right.
the mythicism, did
There you
Jesus
go.
exist? And a lot of those guys go into that, right? They
Right.
love to dissect it, they love to pick it
Right.
apart, and especially,
And
to
that and
beat
that's how
black
that's
Christians
how I
over
got
the head.
into
And yeah, it's a start, right? It's a
that's how I
it's a
that's
journey
how
to
I found you because I
skepticism.
that's how
Yeah.
I actually found you because I'm into the apologetics. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
and with Matt Dillahunty, how he's been into
Yes.
the debates and
The
things, and
debates,
and
absolutely.
then that's I kind of ran into you or whatever. So
Mhm.
you're talking about mysticism. I see you with Aaron Raw,
Aaron Ra. Mhm.
Arden Raw, or whatever.
Uh-huh.
He's
Yep.
a mysticist, right? Or mysticism. He promotes
He's
that,
more,
or
I think he does, but he's more about, gosh, Aaron is
yeah,
interesting. But
right, right,
no, he's no, yeah, he definitely goes into breaking down, the religions,
all
especially
right,
Christianity and whatnot. So, yeah, he's really good for that. He's another debater.
right.
Oh,
But
he will
uh,
debate the mess out of it.
right, and that was another thing. Now that I remember, I was gonna ask you that I haven't really heard you talk about. I know you're atheist and all that, but do you consider the historical figures? Well, no, I mean, excuse me, what some people may call historically Jesus and some of
Mhm.
the other prophets. Do you believe that for example, Jesus was historical, or do you? Because I know you didn't never kind of, from what I heard, got into that. You got into the God thing,
Right.
But
Yeah, so
what's your take on that part? Do you believe that Jesus, for example, was historical?
I do not believe that Jesus existed as
Okay.
a person. I do not
Okay.
believe that.
Mm,
And see, this is why I put all religions into a fictional box,
I see that.
because at some point,
Yeah.
they only existed in the mind of, of human beings and in
Right.
human imaginations. Now, Jesus or Jesus is a very popular, it's a very common name.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
there are many
Definitely.
Jesuses or Jesuses out there, right?
Definitely.
If we want
Definitely.
to get technical.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But as
Definitely.
far
Definitely.
as the Jesus from the Bible
Right.
existing, no, I don't. I don't
Like
believe that that
Bart
was it.
Ehrman. You heard of Bart Ehrman?
Yes,
The
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm well
He
aware of that.
he believes in the historical Jesus and stuff. I know Matt Dillahunty
Mhm.
doesn't.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, no,
realize that.
I don't. And my main thing is to really try to build community and really increase the presence of those folks who have left those beliefs behind
Right.
and who have felt isolated,
Right.
and who have felt like they don't have a voice. And to me, so
I,
rebuilding and connecting folks has been really important to me.
Definitely, and I see that.
Hmm.
And it's definitely, you talk about that on recovering from religion, and it's especially in the Black community. It's definitely tough to be unapologetic like yourself, because you have a lot of family members, and like I just told you that, like my mother, it's she died. It was being a Christian in church and things like
Hmm.
that, and I've grew up nothing but hearing about the church, and so it's traumatic
It
experience
can
leaving the
be, yes.
religion, and also
Hmm.
from having family members. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you let me see about this. Do you but you don't do I not like that. You just not
Rarely,
stuff like that. Yeah,
because
yeah.
first of
At
all,
first I
I
thought you
mean,
were
yeah,
into that when I saw you with Matt Dillahunty, but you
not
just,
really. I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
do the apologetics
Right.
because I don't like
That
word salads. I
right,
don't
right,
like word
right.
manipulation, and I don't like people who jump all over the place.
Right. That's
With
why that
that,
threw me off when
yeah.
I saw you paired with him in a
Yeah,
way.
I mean,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
do yeah, I love Matt.
Right,
Matt
yeah,
is cool, but yeah, I
right,
know that people will try to make now if we are getting to I know how to debate.
yeah,
I
yeah,
know how to get into a
right,
conversation with
right,
religious people if we want to have, if we want to have it, but
right, right.
my focus is on
Building
trying to
community.
yeah, it isn't good for my health and well-being to
Right,
debate all the time, and so therefore I just choose to try to focus on that. I'm like, look, it's your hell, you burning it.
no
If that's
doubt.
the case. Hmm.
Now, what do you say? Because a lot of these conscious community and Facebook groups, they always talk about spiritualism.
Yeah.
What do you say when they say, "Well, yeah, yeah, we do away with religion, but and you even have all these memes with,
Yes.
in spirit,
Uh-huh.
about
Hmm.
being, and they always try to say, well, in Africa, you know,
Yes.
yes, do away with Christianity, Islam, and all the religions, but in
Right.
Africa we have this Africa spiritualism, and we don't separate science from, you know, spiritualism and stuff like that. I had kind of a little mini debate, if you will,
Yeah, it's
and
ultimately
yeah,
incompatible. The whole
right.
spiritualism and spirituality is just as it's just as I mean,
I
it's
agree with
just
you,
as irrelevant as like formal belief in a God. I understand that some people, when they do away with that, with that notion of, a sky daddy or some person in
because
the sky watching
you still
over
have
you.
legends, you still have
Right,
legends in African.
right.
That's what I try to say.
Mhm.
In African belief systems, in
Those
they're
deities are
still
just as fictional. I mean, they're just
definitely,
as, but the
that's
difference
what I'm
is,
saying.
right, they're just as fictional. They're no more
Right,
provable.
Right.
then but
Right.
except for folklore,
Right.
except for creating some fantastic stories
Right.
about the different gods. I actually enjoy some of the
I do too.
like Anansi the spider, some of the Ghanaian tales about the different gods and stuff.
Right. Right.
Those
Right.
stories are actually way more interesting and less
Di-
dogmatic than
agree.
Christianity.
At the
So
same time, we wouldn't be
yes,
truthful if we was to say that they it's no
right.
different
It's
and at the end of
right.
the
It's
day. And
all a
they're
part of
filled
the
with
history. Right.
right.
We don't need to
And
romanticize it.
and man, I'm telling you, that in the conscious community,
Oh,
that is
they do.
a
It's heavy. It's
oh
a
my
heavy thing. Absolutely, it is.
man. I'm like, you
Yeah,
gotta
trust
update your
me, I
scholarship. I mean,
know.
come on. And then they wonder why white folks don't take them seriously.
I
You know what I
mean,
mean?
yeah,
I
a lot of us don't take them seriously either,
for sure, for
but
sure,
yes.
for sure.
But yeah,
That's why I'm trying to bring
it's a,
people like you in to clean up
yeah.
this mess. Because some of them don't even know about you, and it's crazy because they
Yeah.
talking about,
Well, they're so male
atheism, because they're talking about
driven.
the
Yeah.
concept of not believing in God. So atheism.
Mhm.
So if
Mhm.
you heard about atheism, you should have heard of somebody like Mandisa.
Well, them being
But
male
they
driven, they don't want
right,
to, how dare a woman like myself, a strong
right,
woman,
'cause-
be as powerful as them,
right, right, right.
So,
So I was trying to prove a point. I was like, well, okay, let's see what the an atheist, a black atheist, has to say. I'm gonna go grab
mhm.
one from the mainstream, call it one of the most popular ones that we know. Google her. I'll talk for her. Google black atheist. You gonna see Baldwin, and you're gonna see Mandisa and a couple of other people out there. So definitely. Yeah. So no, I don't think we have much. I don't know how long we went. Um I probably talked more than you did to save you from talking all the time. uh no, but anyway, I like I've the 2000 and was it 15 video. That's when I heard your story about how you came into I'm looking at my notes, into well, excuse me, not Christianity, talking against Christianity and starting to be more open, and with the Jeremiah Kamara,
Oh yes,
the
yes,
the
the slave
the radio
sermons, the
show, Michael
mhm.
Basin, Pimps and a Poet,
Yes,
the
uh-huh.
book, The Holy Lockdown, Does the Black Church Limit Black Progress? And that was kind of the
Mhm.
book that got you kick-started into, am I correct? And
Yeah,
then really,
well, actually,
and then Mar, the movie, religion,
religious,
yeah,
uh-huh.
religious, and stuff like that.
Yeah. But my background has pretty much been taking those experiences and really just reflecting on my upbringing and how it was always pretty politically motivated, very secular,
Right.
like conscious and such. And so just really,
You didn't have parents
coming
to breathe
from
down your neck
that.
telling you have to go to church and doing this and that. So
Right,
that
right. They
that's one
they they
one
they
thing.
breathe down my neck about other stuff, but not
Right,
that.
right, right, right. For
Correct.
sure, for sure. Now, no, I think, yeah. So she's the Black Nonbelievers co-founder and president. It's been founded since 2011, correct?
Yep, 10 years
Eh,
old.
right. And so, yeah, no, I will drop the link underneath this video. I'm trying to see if there's any questions that I can see on here. Let's see. Man, man, man. Nah, I ain't gonna mess with this thing. I think we've been on here for a good while. I don't want to take too much of your time. I'm trying to even see how long. Can you see how long we've been on?
About 45 minutes,
About
I think.
45
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've been looking at my clock on the
You
computer.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's fine
You-
though.
you've been clocking me.
No.
Well, I tell you, man, black people, man.
I
No,
know, right? What you gonna do
but
with
I
us?
saw you on the thinking Seth Andrews. He's from I didn't even know he because yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, from Oklahoma as well,
Yep,
from
that
Tulsa,
he is.
Oklahoma. Seth Andrews. So
Fellow fellow American Atheist board member along with Matt too. Yep.
wow, okay,
Mhm.
okay. Yeah, I've been out the States for almost a decade. So
Wow, okay.
yeah, yeah, almost 10 years. So it's been a while. So I've kind of I've been on the pulse of what's going on through the
Yeah.
internet and all, but not
Yeah.
exactly everything. That's probably why I haven't heard of you.
No,
until
that's fine. I mean,
yeah,
better
yeah,
late than never.
most definitely. And you have a lot of chapters in how many different cities? 10 to 12?
Well, we had up to about 14 at one time. We're going
Okay.
through a restructure
Okay.
because of with
COVID.
COVID.
Yeah.
We had some affiliates go, go
And I want to
dark,
let people know this is a,
and but
this is
yeah.
a there is a space for Black atheists. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
that's the most important thing. This is why I brought her out. There is a space for us, and she can talk a little
Absolutely.
bit more about that. I didn't really know. I figured there was, but I never really looked for it per se until I
Right.
ran into you, and then I was like, wow, this is a thing. These really got,
Yes.
you know.
It is a thing. We've actually connected with Black atheists and atheists of color all across the globe now.
Because
Because
yeah,
there's
that's
movement,
yeah,
there's movements, communities growing, people who are leaving religion behind,
right,
and
right,
they're looking to mobilize, even
right,
if it's
right,
just to offer a social space,
right,
a space for people to just gather. But of course, we champion human rights. We are very pro reproductive rights, pro, liberation, pro, all of that stuff,
right.
and so
Well, so
um
what would you say to somebody that want to start a chapter out, let's say here or in
well
UK or somewhere internationally with
Well,
your brand?
I would say,
Because
well,
you're a franchise now.
right,
You know.
right. Right now, we're still a U.S. domestic nonprofit
Right, right,
organization, but
right.
we have to look into doing
A-
like being worldwide. But there are like
As it grows. Yeah.
there's an association of Black humanists in London. They
Gotcha.
were formerly the London Black Atheists. So there are, like you said, you're doing your research.
Right,
Be sure to, try to, find a group that might be in your area,
right,
and maybe find others. Now, I certainly wouldn't mind, helping folks, guide them on starting a group in the area.
right, right, right.
Definitely want to do that. And Meetup is a really good engine
I
to,
remember you
start
talking
a
about
group
Meetup a lot.
worldwide. Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
That's a really good
That's how y'all
way
started,
to.
pretty much,
Yep, we
right?
got started
Meetup.
on Meetup and our
Right.
website, and we created a Facebook group as well.
Didn't you
So
start out with
yeah,
like 10 to 12 or in the beginning?
our first in-person meeting, there were about 14 of us there, which was
Okay.
actually pretty good for a number, for the fact that it was a Black group and a Black-centered group.
Right.
There were about a good, 14 of us that
Okay.
were there and who came out and was like they were glad, they were happy to see
To
us.
see. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because like you
And
said, some people and yourself, when you visited other atheists, just atheist groups, you've seen
You see maybe one or two
yeah,
Black folks, you might be
faces
the
and
only Black one there,
right,
and
right, right, right,
experience these microaggressions, you
right, right, right,
and then when you, like you said, when you go into the conscious spaces,
right,
and deal with all this other nonsense, some of them
right.
are very either overly religious or spiritual, and
And you just reminded me of something.
like
You just reminded me of something else. When you some people, devil advocate again, some people I've heard, I promise it ain't me. Some people say, well, that was, or maybe I addressed it already, how maybe that's the way that you became popular because you appealed to the LGBTQ
cute
community's
community.
base,
Mm,
and that you appealed so loudly
mm,
that they, because they say how racism and white supremacy, if like in the work the words of Nellie Fuller or whatnot, nothing goes on
hmm.
without white supremacy's
That's
approval per
interesting.
se.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you get what I'm coming, like, so some people may say, well, the reason why she became in mainstream and became so popular was because she's promoting a certain
Right.
agenda
Right.
that is
It's
actually,
supremacist. Right.
you get what I'm
Uh-huh.
saying? So
Mhm.
they gave you that platform per se. So and it's because it in some, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's doing damage in some sort of way. What do you say to that?
I,
You think I was
I
coming
have
with
you
that,
got to
huh?
laugh at it. You got to laugh at that
Right, right.
because unfortunately, our community
Because
is
you know how black
full
people
of
are. Why is she
conspiracy.
famous?
Yeah,
Why not me? It's just I hear
yeah,
these things.
that
Yeah,
that crab in a barrel mentality,
absolutely, absolutely.
and also, but I mean, there's a lot of conspiracy theories as well, right? We
Right,
we we hear a lot of people who, therefore, if I think it. That it has to be. It
right,
doesn't.
right.
They don't know that. And there are some people who just seem to be allergic to hard work and actually connecting with people.
Yeah.
And like I said, as a humanist, as an atheist, I don't have that dogma to tell me that where they live, what they, because I consider I'm pansexual. I am a part of the LGBT
You said you
community.
said you said omnisexual at one time.
Omni slash
What? Yeah,
pansexual.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, I was trying to figure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I read that. That was
Yeah.
that's a nice segue into another
Yeah.
thing. You were talking about something with Jet magazines and Playboy. I was like, when I read that, I was
Yes.
like, what is that about?
Yeah, so
Now the Jet
Jet
magazines, I
magazine
remember
was
that
yeah,
when
Jet
I was growing
magazine
up.
was
Yeah,
in 2012. Yeah.
I didn't know they were still producing Jet magazines or whatnot. I
I
thought
think they've
they
gone completely digital now.
okay.
But at the time that I was asked to be featured, it was still in print.
Wow. I
So
remember
yeah.
growing up those Beauty of the Weeks, man. Yeah,
Of
yeah.
course you do.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
But
Ain't nothing wrong,
yeah.
and nothing wrong with that, But
Yeah, but
so
Playboy was in 2018 along with the
okay,
Five Fierce Humanists article
there
with
you
the
go. All
five
right.
five fierce black women humanists.
So, but
Um,
Playboy,
I
what?
actually
What's the core? I'm trying to get the correlation. Help me, help me. I
well,
can't.
so I'll tell you.
Yeah,
At
yeah.
the American Atheist Convention that took place in Oklahoma City in 2018,
Mm.
where Hugh
Out of
Laurie
all
was
places, the
the
place where
keynote.
I'm from,
Yeah,
the big red
he.
conservative state. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know that was and American
Mm-hmm.
Atheist loves to do their conventions in
Mm-hmm.
states that are pretty conservative, but
Right? Because I seen you at the
um,
Madison convention in Wisconsin, and
yes, that was the Freedom from Religion
yeah,
Foundation.
you in
Yeah.
all those places.
Mm.
Definitely.
Yeah, so and but, I got to promote BN, right? We
Big
got,
time, big time. You go hard. You
definitely.
go hard.
I do.
That's no doubt about
I
that.
do. So there was a writer who wrote for Playboy,
Hmm.
JW. Shout out to him.
Is he
He
black?
was no, he's a white guy,
Okay.
but he was a former pastor, and that
Mm,
convention was the first atheist event that he ever attended, and so
okay.
he was doing a story
Okay.
on that convention. And so he came up, introduced himself, said he was writing an entry, he was writing a piece for Playboy, and would I like to be interviewed? And so I said, yeah. So he interviewed me along with other folks, and I managed to make the
Like
cut for
like
that
like in your
article.
own words that I heard you say, you don't say no to nothing.
Yeah,
I
right,
mean
yeah.
you put in the work.
Barely,
That's
yes.
you be putting
Mhm.
in the work. Definitely, I've
Yeah.
seen you in all kinds of platforms, and that's part of the reason why I think the conscious community just they it's about working with others, and I see you working very
Mhm.
well with others. I mean,
Yeah, and
I see you paired up with people. I'm like, what the, what?
mhm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you make it work. It's
Yeah,
a
and it's
beautiful thing to
also
see.
about amplifying our voices. So
Definitely.
you have your platform and you're trying to build it. Why
Right,
would I
right.
not help you build that?
Man,
I mean,
man,
that's just
man, man.
that's what we're
You know what's so
supposed to
crazy?
do.
And I'm glad that you said that. You know what's so crazy? Even local people, and I don't know if I heard you say that at some point in time, but somebody else did. I heard it. But like you'll have local celebrities or local people, civil rights activists or things like that
Mhm.
that you want to talk to sometimes, and they act like they too busy. But
Yeah.
then you'll talk to somebody that's more on an international or national scale, and they get with
Mhm.
you like that.
Mhm.
It's crazy, and
Yeah. It's amazing how
it's
those of us,
mind-boggling.
yeah, those of us who are busy always manage to I had a voice teacher who said a long time
and,
ago.
and uh,
She said you always want to book the ones who are busy because the other ones will get back to you.
right, right,
That's
and that took the work ethic that you have, and
mhm.
you had. You have three kids
I have
now,
three
or
children.
three
Yes, I have.
children? Okay.
Yeah, they're double.
And
Yeah, they're double digits now. My youngest is
yeah,
12.
yeah. But I mean, back then,
Yeah,
but back then you was
but yeah,
putting
they
in the
were
work. You
younger.
was putting
Yep.
in the work,
Mhm.
and it's not easy because you were still working full time with the CDC thing, right?
Mhm. Yep.
And I'm like, man, I commend you on that. Um, yeah. Uh, it's what I want to get into. Man, my mind's I got ADD. I apologize. I'm all. Who were we talking to before I interrupted you? And I'm sure people are gonna say, man, you let the girl talk. They didn't come to see me. They came to see you. Um, yeah, I think that's pretty much. Oh, because you mentioned singing. So
Yes.
you went to the musical arts in
The high
high
school,
school,
right? LaGuardia High School of Music and Art and Performing Arts.
and you said that's the same school that was in that movie Fame, right?
Yep. Movie and
Okay.
TV show. Yep. The High School of Performing Arts. Yep.
Right. Man,
It
and
combined the High School of Music and Arts, which was originally in Harlem,
okay,
which is now the A. Philip Randolph High School. I don't know if they renamed it now, but yes, it's
okay,
behind Lincoln Center in Manhattan, or what
okay,
we call the city.
okay. And do you still do anything with music on the
Only a
side, or no?
little,
Okay, not
only a little bit.
okay.
One of our favorite activities on the cruise is karaoke. So we'll do something like that. There are a lot of musicians that are within the BN network. So we were actually working on a project. And speaking of the Freedom from Religion Foundation, Dan Barker, who was one of the
I,
co-presidents, is
okay,
a
I heard of Dan Barker. He's
yeah, former pastor, former
okay,
religious,
okay,
composer, and so now he
okay.
plays.
Wow.
Yeah, he's so we're working on a music project as well. So with other musicians, so there's a lot of good stuff that's coming along.
Right, right.
It's, yeah, and I'm happy to be a part of it. I'm really happy to really help bring it together as much as I can.
Um, do you believe that America is a Christian country?
Hell no, I don't. I mean, unfortunately, there's way too many religious people here, but as far as it
In Georgia, she's
being
talking about
in
in the South.
Georgia, well,
Most
definitely,
definitely.
but yeah,
You know
definitely.
what? If you since you were if you would have remained in New York, do you believe you would have became the person that you are today?
Actually, I still do because
Okay.
even in New York radio,
Hmm.
um, is saturated. Black radio, especially on Sunday mornings, is
Saturated. Yeah, definitely.
saturated
Definitely.
with religious talk. And some of the biggest mega churches are in New York as well. The Jehovah's Witnesses headquarters
Mm,
is in Brooklyn.
mm,
They
mm,
yeah, they're in Brooklyn. So it
Heavy
still has a
Jewish
oh
population.
yes,
Also
yes.
the Hebrew Israelites all over the
Oh
place.
yeah,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
That's a
Yep.
whole nother thing.
Yeah, I mean it's a huge melting pot, but yeah, it's still New York is still heavily religious, and so I'm pretty there was still a need. There'll still be a need for because we have a New York City affiliate as well, which is very active.
All
So
right, all right.
yeah, I absolutely do think that I
But
would be
your most
better there.
active one would be the flagship in Atlanta, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, and also our Washington D.C. affiliate and Charlotte as well. But yes, we are definitely active here in Atlanta.
Okay. So the state of black atheists, what would you say is the
It's an interesting state. I just really hope that more people continue to become more comfortable with open identification,
right?
and finding and connecting with others so that they don't feel like they're fighting their family all the time. There's definitely more of us out here. It's a matter of us putting ourselves out there to find you so you can find us. It doesn't mean that everything will be perfect, but do know that there are activists. There's a body of work that not just Black Nonbelievers has produced, but also other Black atheists, and it's
It
important for us.
you had mentioned also, that I like about we as us black people after slavery, we there was free thinking,
Mhm.
going on a lot,
Yeah.
and one
Even
of the
during
book
slavery, yeah, Black Free Thinkers by
mm,
Chris Cameron.
Cameron,
Yes.
I promote that book with
Mhm.
Chris Cameron, that book, and you have several other books on there, and
Yep.
some other lady that you mentioned
Yep.
that
Sakibu
you
Hutchinson, and
yeah, her.
yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so there was always some skepticism or
Yep.
yeah,
We were
agnosticism
never
or whatnot.
and
Yeah, yeah.
even outright atheism. So
Right, right, right.
yeah.
So got to do our research. Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
and bring it back, let people know, look, this isn't new. This
Right,
isn't
right,
a
right,
new thing
right,
in our community.
right.
What's new now is that more of us are speaking up about it, which is always a good thing.
Right. And I remember you mentioned something about MLK's advisor. He was
Bayard Rustin
okay,
was a Quaker, but he was also gay, and
okay.
he
Yeah,
was
yeah.
he was written out of history until recently.
Right, right, right. And W. Du Bois, Langston Hughes, Philip
Mhm.
Randolph,
Yep.
and people like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think I hit on everything. So I'm gonna leave it with if you have anything to say to the black atheists or people that are on the cusp of
Yeah.
wanting to leave their religion that are black here in the international Nordic black family.
Yeah. So,
Uh, uh,
definitely find
but I'm
find
gonna leave all the links underneath this video so you can check her out. Check out her name in YouTube. Google her. Um, yeah. You have
Yep. Find
anything?
find your tribe, find your
Ah,
people. It
there
is
you go.
always good to, find others because we are out here, and even if they aren't necessarily black, there are some white folks who are good allies.
Absolutely.
There are,
Absolutely.
and we don't want to discount that.
Absolutely.
Of course, we want to talk about the issues. We want to call out the ones who ain't worth a damn. But
Right. Right.
we want to make sure that we are building as many positive bridges as we can, as
Right.
possible.
Right.
So continue to do that. It may be a challenge, but yeah, we are out here, and we aren't going anywhere. Stand in your truth. No one can take that away from you, and you don't have to hide it. You don't have to be ashamed of it. Own it.
Definitely.
Own your atheism. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it.
Definitely.
Most of all.
Definitely. And thank you. We're gonna end it right here. And thank you for the opportunity of talking to you. I will just end the live stream right now, I
All
guess.
right. Thank you once
I,
again for having me. Look
no doubt.
forward.
I will leave the links underneath the this video. Black
Okay.
Non-Believers Inc. and all that. All right.
Okay, cool.
All
Hope y'all
right.
check it out.
I salute you.
All
Keep
right.
keep going.